Hi guys, how you going? I hope you're doing real well. First things first, this review will, as always, not contain any spoilers for Season 2, which I'm reviewing now, but it will contain implicit spoilers for Season 1. So if you don't want any spoilers for Season 1, then you can go and watch my review of Season 1. You can subscribe while you're here so you know to come and watch this later, or you can, I don't know, go and do something productive with your life. It's up to you. YouTubers who tell you to get off YouTube. That's a thing, isn't it? Zone Blanche, or Black Spot, Season 2, takes place in the same small French village as the first season, Villefranche. It is entirely in French, or you can watch it dubbed if you want to. The premise for this season is a little bit different, and I think that's a good thing, because to sum up my criticism of the first season, I would say it didn't really have a good premise. Consistency of plot and direction and theme were basically the problem with the first season. The second season is happily a little bit more focused. Lorraine Weiss, the chief of police, is trying to figure out what in the world is going on in this creepy forest. Her daughter Cora is trying to find her boyfriend and figure out where her allegiances lie, while the district attorney, Frank Siriani, is building a case against the Steiners, the town's mafia, for the murders that they committed in the first season, but it's difficult because there's no hard evidence against them. And all the while we have new bodies turning up left, right, and center. It's just a lot of dead people. Subscribe! I think I preferred this season to the first one. It just has that little bit more direction, because Lauren is now convinced that there's something supernatural living in the forest. She sets out to find that, and that gives us a direction to follow for her. Unfortunately, the writers don't seem to have learned their lesson from the first season, which is that you just can't have that much stuff going on and move on from each thing so quickly, because when we have 40 different plot lines and each one of them starts as a mystery, we the audience do not know where we find ourselves. That's what happened in Season 1, and unfortunately it happens again here. We do also have some direction with Frank Siriani and his struggle to bring down the Steiners, and some direction with Cora, Lauren's daughter, as she tries to figure out a few things, but her story, I have to say, was quite boring. What was interesting was Bertrand, the mayor. He has basically become an alcoholic while he mourns his daughter. There is this whole thing with his wife and a history with Lauren herself, and all the while he's trying to topple his father's empire, his father being Gerald Steiner, the crime boss. His story is interesting. He is complex, but he doesn't feel like a writing try-hard character. I'm going to have to explain that. A writing try-hard character is the name I've just given to characters who don't feel real, and so as to compensate for that, the writers give them a bunch of cliched traits. For example, being homosexual, taking drugs, cops being married to the job, all those kinds of things. Now, don't get me wrong, those traits can be present in good characters, but I've often seen them used to compensate for empty characters. Most of the characters in Black Spot, in fact possibly all of them, are not like that at all. The characters feel real because their goals and character flaws are not too well defined. You know you've got a bad character when their personal flaw and objective is openly stated in the first episode. Real people are just more complex than that. I don't know what I want out of life other than to speak 6 languages and for you to subscribe. Anyway, the characters are good. Also good, very good in fact, is the cinematography. I did not give this enough praise in the first season. The cinematography is rich. Almost every shot has just the right level of atmosphere to it, but not so much that it becomes distracting, where the shots are so beautifully composed that it conveys the wrong mood for the series. This is dark, it's broody, it's cold, without ever soaking us for too long. You could possibly argue that there's a little bit too much of a reliance on fog and the light playing in the trees, but that's being overly picky. Basically, the cinematography here is as good as you'll find in any series, almost as good as that of Netflix's Perfume, but without the horrible musical score to ruin everything. In fact, the score is also excellent. It could probably do with a little bit more variation, especially after Season 1. It's getting a touch dry, but it's effective, it sets the mood well for the series, and at least it doesn't have weird voiceover talking by someone who can't sing in English. The problem here for my part is that we just don't get the explanations we're looking for. In the first season, the explanations were there, but they were implicit rather than explicit, so they didn't feel well rounded off. I now see, having watched the second season, that the answers were there, they were just confusingly presented. A similar thing happens in this second season, except that this time, There is one real question that has been plaguing us for 16 episodes now, and it just doesn't get answered. And in fact, it opens up another question, but not in a good way. They are now setting up such a web of questions that I genuinely don't believe the writers know the answers. It feels like they are writing mystery for the sake of being mysterious, rather than to slowly reveal an answer that is there and will make sense of everything. I just don't have faith that such an answer exists, and I don't believe that this whole event with the forest makes any semblance of sense. It's kind of like when you ask a kid if they've done their homework and they just keep raising questions about various times of day, none of which were anywhere near the supposed doing of the homework, and after a while you think, yeah, you just don't have an answer for me, do you? You haven't thought this through. Look, with this series, I hope I'm wrong, but I doubt it. As I said, I liked Black Spot Season 2. I don't have the kind of time that would allow me to watch something like this again, but if I did have that kind of time, I would watch it again, and I think it would be better on second viewing, but I don't think it's like The Prestige, which is so well connected that more viewings lead to more appreciation and understanding. Both seasons of Black Spot have some bits that are just not clear and will not be made clear by further explanation because they just don't make proper sense. I said in my review of The Break Season 2 that it's actually harder to write reviews for shockingly bad, horrible pieces of crap like The Break than it is to write for series like this, because to single out a piece of it is to imply that it was worse than the rest of it when it was all equally bad. But with Black Spot, especially this season, it's very hard to say how I feel about it, because some parts I would go so far as to compare to Trapped, The Missing, The Killing. There is so much atmosphere and a lot of tension, but when I was going back through it to get the screenshots from it, I remembered that all this stuff was good in and of itself, but cannot be fully reconciled with the rest of the series. It's like you're watching 2 or 3 different series, each of which is good, but none of which is connected. So overall, I would absolutely recommend both seasons of Black Spot, especially if you like things that are weird, mysterious, dark, French. This is a truly European noir series. It may be significantly flawed, but it belongs in the same category as things like Trapped, The Missing, The Killing, Dark. It may be the runt of the litter among those shows, but it is at least in the litter. Other shows are not even in the litter, even if they try so hard to be in there. You know what show I'm talking about. If you don't, you haven't been on this channel long enough, subscribe. Anyway guys, that was the Reykjavik review for Black Spot Season 2. I'd of course love to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment. If you haven't seen it, I have plenty of other European noir reviews, so stick around and subscribe for more of that content, and maybe even some comedy as well. Wherever you are, whatever language you call your own, I hope you really enjoyed this. À la prochaine, salut!